UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka is holding out. He's redshirting. He's not going to play. Should we be worried at West Virginia that something similar could happen and his football just ruined?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you guys. I am Mountaineer Paul, your host. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Locked On West Virginia, brought to you by FanDuel. Place your $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, and that's guaranteed. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to get started. Pretty simple stuff. Wow, what a whirlwind it's been already today in the college football world, and I got to thinking, is football ruined by what's happening right now? Agents taking advantage of players using their leverage in times of need. And you can look at it both ways, and things are absolutely just horrible right now from a standpoint of the health of college football. I don't want to say it's on life support, but it's not great, okay? And so a lot to talk about. Let's get into the first segment, though. If you're not aware, UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka, who's been really good for the Rebels through 3 or 4 games this year, is redshirting and saying, listen, I don't want to play anymore. You guys didn't give me what you promised. And I'm going to share a screen here, and I'm going to relate this to West Virginia. Just give me a minute. Agent says UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka was verbally promised $100K. UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka was verbally promised a minimum of $100,000 during his recruitment, but only saw $3,000 relocation fee. His agent Marcus Cromartie of Equity Sports told On3. On Tuesday night, the former Holy Cross transfer quarterback announced he was stepping away from the program and redshirting because representations were not upheld after he enrolled. Sluka has been represented by Equity since January, and he also announced he would attend UNLV on January 16th, but did not enroll until the summer. He's now entering the transfer portal. According to Cromartie, the quarterback was set to receive a contract when he enrolled this past summer, but it did not happen. Blueprint Sports, which manages On3, that there was never a $100,000 contract extended. When I had the conversation with the offensive assistant who was doing Matt's recruitment, we talked about a number north of $100,000 to $150,000, Cromartie said. This was a number I was told was given to Matt to come there. When Sluka still did not have a deal midway through training camp, according to Cromartie, he reached back out to UNLV to reopen new negotiations. I reached out to coaches halfway through camp, he said. I reached out politely. Hey, I understand you guys are midway through camp. It's a quarterback competition, but the NIL agreement hasn't been sent out. Can we speak on this? Nothing was said back for a couple of weeks. I approached them again. I said, hey, you know what's going on? I even offered to meet them halfway. I said, I understand trying to get $100,000 within the next 4 months may be hard, but can we get him $10,000 a month? They said no. I said, how about $5,000? They came back with, we can give him $3,000 a month for the next 4 months, take it or leave it. The CEO of Equity Sports, which is Chris Cabot, told On3 that there was an understanding that the school would not be able to extend a contract to Sluka until he enrolled. At the end of the day, we know a school can't give a player a contract until he's enrolled, Cabot said. The quarterback has completed 21 of 48 passes for 318 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in 3 games. He's also rushed for almost 300 yards on 39 carries with his score. And they're coming off a bye week set to host Fresno State on Saturday. They won 3 games to start the season for the first time since '84, ranked number 23 in the coaches poll. And that's really all I want to get into on this. So this is bad. This is really bad, guys. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about the health of the sport. And I'm not saying West Virginia is doing things like this. Obviously, we've got a bigger budget than UNLV does. But point is the health of the sport is bad. You can't offer deals to kids technically. Now, we understand that it gets done. But you can't offer deals to kids until they're on campus. Okay, that's fair. But then you've got leverage because this kid's year of eligibility is at stake here. You either got to do something within 4 games, and you're talking about a team that's ranked. And some people question Sluka on this because they say, hey, look, this is selfish on his part. He's leaving his teammates. He's leaving everybody behind. They're ranked. They've got a chance to make the playoff. All these great things. Like, he's probably not going to find a much better situation. But they feel let down. They feel like they've been lied to. And I've heard some people come back and say, well, he's getting a college education. People need to come to grips with that now. Just a college education isn't enough anymore. And if you want to compete with the big boys, you got to be able to shell out dollars. And 100,000, man, listen, Sluka is going to get, just off the 3-game performance that he's put on, he's going to get more than 100,000 now. He'll be at a Power 5 school next fall. And UNLV lost a pretty good quarterback. I'm not saying he's elite. He definitely has things he needs to work on. He's extremely mobile. He killed Kansas. I know that. We saw how tough their defense was at times against West Virginia this past week against a very similar quarterback as Garrett Green. So I'm just going to say this. Don't lie to these kids, right? Because you've seen on my thumbnail, I've got Josiah Trotter. I've got Jaheim Light. Pay the kids, whatever the market value is, and then negotiate. But I don't understand this concept of let's just get them on campus and maybe we can get them to fall in love with the university where they're at. Maybe we'll have a good team and then try to leverage that, And on the other side, I don't agree with the kids. Like, we had this happen to us during Josh Eilert, where they all entered the portal in August and they leveraged that against, hey, we've got to have a team to play this year. And we had a few guys get more money because of that, because there was no time left to build a team. College football needs a players' association. I know nobody wants to hear it. They need to unionize. They need something to back up to that way both sides can be supported, not just the players, not just the universities, but there needs to be some kind of mitigating person or factor that can help either side, because obviously in a situation like this, it's he said, she said. And I'm assuming the Equity Sports is a reputable place. And if they're saying that he was offered $100K, that's great. But somebody needs to be fired there. Like, at the end of the day, you just can't enroll. You could do them simultaneously, right? You can say, I want to see a contract beside the enrollment papers. We'll sign them at the same time. I mean, what's wrong with that? You sign the enrollment papers, then you sign the contract, then you file the enrollment papers. I don't get it. So it's a problem in college athletics. And I want to know, because we've seen some of this, right? Should we be worried at West Virginia? Well, we're going to talk about that, guys, on the other side of the break on this episode of Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Return on You. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes and to win $5,000 cash. No purchase is necessary. Just hop on Roy and throw in a few bucks. If everyone pitches in just $10, it adds up fast. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation and performance this week, as well as what he'll continue to bring to your program at West Virginia. Get off the sidelines and get in the NIL game with Return on You. Support the players. Change the game with Roy. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is also brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking at LinkedIn, you're probably looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours on LinkedIn. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Knows small businesses. They do. LinkedIn knows small businesses, and they're wearing a lot of hats. They might not have time or resources to hire outside. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier, and they even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring right now. If I were you, I would post my job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Welcome back, guys. And I just want to ask a couple questions in this segment that I think are definitely applicable to West Virginia University. Number one is, should we worry? Should we be worried? That's a question I ask a lot concerning West Virginia these days. And in this case, you start to wonder, could this Sluka thing get other players' ideas? Because it's a very much a copycat sport. You've seen, just like when in the North Carolina last year, we've seen how many of their players chose not to play in the bowl game. That kind of stuff is very trendy, let's say. It becomes a trend in college athletics. Don't be surprised this week if you don't see a Sluka situation happen a couple different places. Other players look at his situation and they get the cojones to say, you know what, this is happening to me too. And you know what, we're inside of 4 weeks this year. I'm going to redshirt. Give me my red shirt. And I'm just saying, just keep on the watch, because up next, we're going to be talking about a Redshirt Tracker and who is going to redshirt this year at West Virginia. I actually have a list. So on that list are some pretty good players that you could make an argument probably should be playing, but this team needs numbers for next year, obviously. For this year, what I'm talking about, though, is players that we don't want to redshirt. Just for instance, like a Nico Markiel. If you've seen him redshirt, you know it was for to go to the portal, right? It's not because he's trying to hold on to this year and not play anymore. So there's a lot of reasons to kind of think about that kind of stuff. There are other players on the team that you look at and say, well, I mean, these players are getting these phone calls. They know they're being talked to by other universities and other people, and it's a cruel world out there right now, guys. I got to tell you, not happy about it. And the Sluka situation really highlights exactly what's wrong with college football. So for me, keep a close eye on the Mountaineers over the bye week. Hopefully nobody is talking them into or out of anything that would be good for the program or them. Want to see what's best for both. And another thing I really worry about with college athletics is the market just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, it really does. Every time you look, somebody's getting paid. I mean, Ohio State spent $20 million to retain their roster last year, guys. It's getting really scary. But at the end of the day, I really do trust this staff, the coaches we have in place, as far as keeping it real with the players, not lying to them and giving them what is fair and being honest with them when they can't. As a matter of fact, whenever a certain recruit committed this past year, they were honest with the kid that they couldn't give him as much as another team could, to the tune of $40,000 less. And he still came to West Virginia. And so that goes to show you, money still isn't everything, but it's a big part of the equation, So all you have to do is be honest with the kids. In Sluka's case, I'm not exactly sure who UNLV was recruiting against, but at $100,000, it couldn't have been anybody major. How can you not come up with $100,000 for a quarterback in Las Vegas? Surely to goodness they have to have some kind of NIL structure there for that. I mean, it just makes very little sense. Those UNLV players, if that's all they've got, those kids are going to be GONE this coming off season. This has probably left a sour taste in all their mouths. Thankfully, we haven't got that problem at West Virginia that I know of. Our guys are getting paid a fair value. So excited for that. Really excited. We'll see what's going to go on later on as this story continues to develop. But I found it interesting and wanted to see what the comparables were. And it really is a microcosm of everything that's going on in college football today. So up next on Locked On West Virginia, we're going to talk about who's going to redshirt. There's actually a list out there that's been released. Who is done playing for the season for West Virginia, and have they played very much in the game so far? We talk about that next on Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. Hey, college fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sports book. When you get to a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. And when I look at the odds right now, since West Virginia isn't playing this week, I'll go Kansas State, Oklahoma State. Kansas State starting out as a 6-point favorite in this game. Let's see where the money climbs or doesn't climb to in this one. But as of right now, K-State's favored on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. All right, so thanks to 247 Sports, we have a list of redshirt freshmen this year at West Virginia and others who are going to redshirt. We have a list of players that are probably or likely going to redshirt. A lot of this is based off comments that head coach Neil Brown has made in the last press conference he did, and some is just using logic as well. So let's bounce over to 247 and thank them for this article. It is not behind a paywall, so I can read it. This was written by Mike Casaza. It says, Redshirt Tracker, which Mountaineers will, won't, and might play in 2024. WVU is taking the first of two breaks after the fourth game, which allows the coaching staff to revisit the roster and the 4-game redshirt rule. The 2024 college football season is unusual because it features 2 open weeks, and West Virginia enjoys some symmetry with breaks after the 4th and 8th games during the 12-game regular season. An additional benefit comes with the timing of this first pause. The Mountaineers have played 4 games, and players can participate in up to 4 regular season games while maintaining a red shirt. This rule allows players to exceed 4 games in postseason play, but that's a conversation for later in the season. Obviously, no one has surpassed 4 games so far, but some will, some won't. A crop could go one way or the other, and at his weekly news press conference Monday, head coach Neil Brown said coaches will begin to make up their minds about that this week. Well, when we come in here next Monday, it's probably a better question about who played well. We'll scrimmage Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and it won't be full tackling, but there will be a lot of 11-on-11 work all 3 days. And then I can give you a who stood out at that time. So, in my opinion, just before we even get into this, probably not going to be a lot of info from Neil on that because he's going to leave it as vague as possible for Oklahoma State and beyond, But for now, let's review what's happened in the 2-2 start and look at who will and won't and might redshirt. Might redshirt. Defensive tackle Eddie V, that's probably #1 on the list, really, when you think about it. Eddie V, he'd be great to have back for next year. Be a great piece in the middle to start with and maybe give you a scholarship to go and use somewhere else. Elijah Kinsler has played 1 game. He's a guy we're going to need as the year goes on, Brown said. I think he'll continue to improve. So that sounds like probably going to continue to play. Curtis Jones, the cavalryman and the linebacker, he said he's a guy we're going to need as the year goes on. I think he'll continue to improve. I agree. We're going to need him for next year too. Might as well continue to play Curtis Jones. Keyshawn Robinson is a safety. Israel Boyce has played 0 games. Keon Washington's played 0 games, and we've heard him talk about him. Trevion Dunbar's played 1 game. So I think this crop of players here, I can see Johnson, Robinson, Boyce, Washington, and Dunbar all continuing to play possibly, but you wouldn't be surprised to see any combination of those guys maybe get redshirted. Dior Hubbard, 0 games. I think we've got to see if some of these guys are ready, Brown said. I think this is a big week to test some guys out. Secondary-wise, Keon Washington and Israel Boyce are 2 guys we really need to look at this week. I see them getting better, and I think they can really help us. Those are our 2 up from the defensive backs who jump out. And then what we've got to get to on this week is between Trevion Dunbar and Dior Hubbard. We've got to get to those guys. We'll need them as we get going. They're both talented enough, but they've got to do other things than carry the ball, whether that's pass protection, lead blocking, and that type of stuff. That's going to be interesting to see who wins out between those guys. Khalil Wilkins will redshirt, it says, which is obviously much needed. Khalil is super talented, Brown said. He has some wow plays that go both ways. Wow, that's really good, or wow, that's really bad. But he's really talented. There's going to have to be some patience there as far as getting him fundamentally where he needs to be, where he understands what the defenses are going to do, but he can really run. He's going to be a problem. He's a problem for our defense. He runs the scout team, and he's a problem. He's really talented. We've got to get him honed in. We knew there was going to be a learning period for him, and it wasn't going to be immediate. But from a talent perspective, he's great. He's got talent. Offensive lineman, Lucas Austin, Justin Terry, and Kyle Altuner, 0 games. Obviously, Altuner out for the season. The offensive lineman need time, said Brown, who previously had dismissed the idea of injured Altuner returning at some point in 2024. We feel good from an athletic standpoint. Those guys are going to be able to play here. Receivers Dom Collins and Brandon Raymond have played in 0 games. Brandon Raymond is a guy who's going to be a really good player, Brown said. Dom Collins is fast, just like we thought. He's got to learn how to play the position. But both are going to be solid players for us. I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys redshirt. Defensive lineman Mekhi Myerson's played 1 game. Myerson's going to be a really good player, Brown said. He's battling through an injury right now, but because he's being used a different way, he's going to redshirt. But he's a hit in recruiting for sure. Jason Cross and Chris Henry played in 0 games. Obino Muka, 0 games. And Ricky Williams, 0 games. Ricky missed a lot of the preseason, but Ricky's going to be a high-level player here, Brown said. He gets down here on hill, big, strong, and I like what he's doing. Probably redshirt on those. Won't redshirt Jack Samarco, 4 games. He's probably been the pleasant surprise of the class, Brown said. He's an above-average blocker, and he gets more reps. I think he's going to become a really good blocker for us. He's got good hands. He's not a real fast guy, but he's been a really pleasant surprise, and he's able to help us now. Darius Farmer through 3 games. We haven't been able to get him going, Brown said. He can practice at a little bit higher level, but he's a talented guy who can help us. Yeah, I feel like, he should get some of the Rodney Gallagher treatment. I don't know why we're not giving the ball to him off the edge. Like, get him in the flow of these games. This is a big problem I have with Neil Brown, I get your butt's clenched all the time because you're coaching for your job, but I would love to see a guy like Darius Farmer just get the ball off the edge 1 play in a game just to see what he looked like with the ball in his hands. Maybe he makes somebody miss. Maybe he goes for 30. All it takes is 1 play like that to get a guy's confidence going. It really does. Nate Gabriel's been pretty good, although he didn't score very well the other day. We really felt like coming out of spring ball, he was going to be able to help us, Brown said. When Eddie Veteran got hurt, we were really planning on playing him and kind of easing him into it. His role would increase during the year, but he got fast-tracked. Yeah. Zay Jennings is a guy we heard so much about during camp, right? And you just haven't seen a lot about him yet, guys. But 4 games for him. Going to be a good player. He's got to learn how to play our defense, but he's really good on special teams, and he's a difference maker on special teams. So, obviously, he's not redshirting. And that's just about it. I think there's a couple on there that I would love to see actually play. One of the running backs would be great to see how they look outside of just the 2 that we've been playing. Not that I don't love our guys, but I would like to see some other backs to get a chance. Along with Anderson, hasn't touched the ball at all. If he's going to, I don't know. If I was him, I'd probably redshirt. He's one I would look at. I would probably go somewhere else. You're not getting any playing time. It's obvious. And he's shown before that he can play. So the coaching staff obviously doesn't trust Anderson for whatever reason. He's played a little bit, don't get me wrong, but not much. Day, like I said, I would love to see Day Farmer get going. I really had high aspirations for him before the season based off his high school stuff. And Keon Washington is a name that you keep hearing. So I would love to see him get in there. Obviously, the Twins, there's a lot of players I would like to see the next few games and let Neil just open it up to some different players because a lot of what we've been using hasn't worked anyway. So take that for what you will. 4 o'clock today, TJ Jackson will be live on Locked On West Virginia. This episode should be coming out around 3 or 3:30. So right after this episode comes out today, I will be doing a live. Make sure to come back and check me out. This evening, we'll be interviewing defensive tackle TJ Jackson. See you then, guys. I'm out.